Hello again. This is introduction to my new course, and I hope it will be quite useful and instructional for all of you who are watching this. So what is the idea of this Grandmaster's thinking blueprint? First of all, let's think about what makes what determines one player's strength, and normally it should be how good he is in evaluation of the position. How good is he in making a game plan or strategy, and of course his calculation skills, which is usually heavily based on tactical skills, tactical vision, combinational vision. Yes, all those things combined give you a strength of the player, but not only those things. We can also, of course, observe that there is something which is called intuition, and of course, what is intuition? Every player, we can say that every player has some experience, some knowledge and some experience, and all these things combined, his knowledge, positional understanding, his playing strength and his experience, everything combined is makes his intuition better or worse. And so you can hear that a player had a feeling. I had a feeling that here I should go for this or go for that, or I had a feeling that this line could be dangerous, and so on. What is that? That's intuition. And of course, how can you develop your intuition? Well, you can, of course, by developing all other aspects of your game. Because intuition is, something which is not easy to formulate, yes. But in my humble opinion, intuition is consists of all of those things combined. So your knowledge, your experience, which makes your playing strength, and so on, your general chess understanding. So my idea in this course is to try to my best ability and explain to you how Grandmaster mind functions in practice. So there is a lot of course, we can talk for hours in theory what it should be done, and we all know more or less how it should work in theory, But here I will try to combine my theoretical knowledge, and mostly I will focus heavily on practice. So I will be revealing you how Grandmaster thinks during the game, how I make my decisions, and let's say how I felt in some position or the other, or in some critical positions, which is the most important thing. And yes, basically how I made this decision or that decision. Sometimes maybe it depends on my opponent, but I usually try to play against pieces like legendary Grandmaster Gligoric said and claimed. Also he wrote a famous book, Play Against Pieces. And I think that also Fischer said something like that he doesn't rely on chess psychology, he relies mostly on good chess moves. But of course nowadays psychology is a part of chess and we can't avoid it, so I'll also try to to give you a few hints about that aspect, but as I said, mostly strong chess moves is what you should think about. So I will be giving you my my basically thinking blueprint, how I think, what I do, how I determine what to do, what not to do, how I make my decisions, so my thinking pattern before the next move. Yes. So basically this is how probably we all know more or less. You should know probably what is the evaluation of the position. Yes. And of course that's very important, because if you think that you're winning but actually you're slightly worse, then your next step, which is forming a game plan, would be completely wrong, right? Yes, and so on and so on. So you have to be as precise as possible, because chess is a very precise game or skill. Yes, a sport, yes, if you like. So in theory it should work like this. You should know evaluation of the position at all times. In every moment of the game you should be aware of the evaluation of the position. Then based on that you should be able to form a game plan. And before it was people thought that game plan is something abstract, something almost impossible to comprehend. Only the greatest masters can form some a good and big plan in the chess game. But basically nowadays we know, after a lot of experience and a lot of generations who developed chess up to this point, let's say these heights which we are at now in chess. So basically you don't need a plan for the whole game. That's also not possible and counterproductive. You need a plan for next part of the game, usually next few moves, next several moves. Because chess is usually a dynamic game, and it's not like you're going to make a plan for next 20-30 moves and it's going very smoothly and you're executing everything, because your opponent is also going to do something. Yes. And basically when you're thinking about your next idea, your next move, about your game plan, the first thing, and we learned this from many great masters, for example from Nimzowitsch, when he talks about prophylactic in chess. First of all, your first task in a chess game is to detect and prevent your opponent's plan, or his plans, or his ideas, or his intentions, however you want to put it. So if you see that your opponent wants to do that, make sure to prevent him. If you have no clue what your opponent wants, then maybe you need to work more on chess, because you simply have to be able to detect what is his idea, what is his intention. Okay, and then we come, when you somehow make your a plan. Let's say you formed some plans, you have some idea what to do in next interval of the game, let's say next several moves, or at least next few moves. Then yes, we come to the calculation. So now your calculation skills should be tested. And then of course that's very important, because calculation is not only pure tactics, which some people claim. It's mostly about tactics, because okay, he plays that, I play this, he goes there, I go there, and so on and so on. of course, first of all, you should be able to find the best moves for both sides. And of course, calculating 10 moves ahead is almost, I don't want to say impossible, but it's impractical, and it happens very rarely. It happens, but not very often. And it's not very useful thing. So you should be able to calculate next few moves. 3, 4, 5 moves, usually, just few moves ahead. And to do it correctly. What it means correctly? It means precise calculation, yes, that maybe you have 2 or 3 possible lines, and that you absolutely make the right choice. This one is the best for me. Here in this one I have the best chances, and so on and so on. For example, let's make it really rough. Yes, this is just far from precision with which it comes in chess game, but let's say roughly like this. It can go like this. You have variation A, and you calculate few moves, and then you say, okay, here I'm slightly worse. Then variation B, you calculate few moves, and then you say, okay, here it looks like it's unclear. And variation C, you see, well, okay, at the end of this variation, it seems like I'm slightly better. Then your choice is quite easy, right? You choose variation C and you go for that. But you see what I mentioned there at the end of variation. So at the end of the variation, so first of all, you need precise calculation, yes. So you need to use your magical skills or tactical skills, okay. I go there, he goes here, yes. You need to be precise, so you don't miss the best moves for both sides. And even when you do that, at the end of the variation, after 3, 4, 5 moves, or maybe even more, you need to be able to evaluate position correctly and precisely. If not, then you're in trouble. So that's very important. So in this in this example, out of these 3 variations, it's quite easy. I mean, you pick the variation C, you're slightly better, you go for that. But of course, life is not so easy, and chess is not so simple. Very often you miss maybe some of the candidate moves. Very often people even miss critical position. Very often they miscalculate. Very often they misjudge some position. Even the greatest, even the world champions, even the top grandmasters. So, this is how it should work in theory. But in practice, to tell you honestly, in practice, you don't have to calculate after every move. You don't have to be aware of 100% about the evaluation of the position always. It's a fact. You can follow the top grandmasters interviews, and when they ask them after the game, but what do you think? What's the position like here? And more often they say, well, I was not sure about the evaluation, but I knew that this is the best move, or this is the best try for me, and so on. So, sometimes it's not even important to determine precisely if you are much better or slightly better, if you just know what to do. So, as I said, this is theory, but in practice, and also you don't have to always have some clear plan, like for next 10 moves. But what you should always do, and that's very important, you shouldn't play a move without idea. So if somebody asks you after the game, or if you ask yourself, what was the idea? Why did you play this move? You should always have answer. For every move which you play in a chess game, you should, you are responsible, nobody else, because you played the move, yeah? You are playing the game, you are moving the chessboard, so you are responsible, nobody else. So if your coach asks you after the game, why did you play that move? You have to have explanation because of that and that. If you say, I have no clue, I don't have an idea, I just play the move, that's wrong. That's wrong, and that will not bring you that will not bring you the path of improvement. So that's a little bit about that. Maybe I was talking a little bit too much, but nevertheless, that's how it looks. And throughout this course, roughly around 10 hours, I'll try to present to you how it works in practice and how it works in Grandmaster mind. Yes, thought process, this algorithm of decision making, and so on and so on. How it looks before the move. Yes, and also it's very important to be aware when the critical position arrives or arises on the board, because a critical position is in a chess game very important crossroad. And usually who wins the game? Usually player who plays better in critical position wins the game. That's usually like that. Okay, so now let me just show you a quick example for this intro, because I just couldn't resist. I have a short game here, this is one of my games, and of course I will be showing you mostly my games, or probably all of them will be my games, because I will be trying to go as deep as possible into the thinking process and decision making process, to really try to explain to the best of my abilities this thinking blueprint. And yes, and because I have some experience, and I think I'm a quite solid Grandmaster, it should be useful for you. It should be instructional, and I hope, and I would be satisfied if at least few people learn something from this course, and if they can say, I learned how to play better, I improved my thinking process thanks to this course. That would make me satisfied. Okay, so here is my game from year 2019, a relatively fresh game. Okay, I was already a Grandmaster with some experience, yes. It was played in a team championship of Canarias, so Canarian Islands in Spain, yeah. And I played for my team, Grand Dama from Gran Canaria. And here I played with black pieces, and my opponent was a young opponent, Perez Gabriel from Tenerife, I think. And okay, he's youngster, he was rated around 2100 FIDE, and my rating was around 2500 FIDE. So let's see quickly what happened here, because this intro is maybe taking too long, but I'm just trying to do my best. So okay, here we have d4, knight f6, c4, c5. Okay, I play several openings. Obviously, as a Grandmaster, I have to have at least, first of all, I need to have opening repertoire, which is complete from white and from black side, complete opening repertoire. And also over the years, I always update this repertoire with existing openings. I update, and from time to time I also upgrade my repertoire with some new opening, which is quite useful. So this is my Benko Gambit or Volga Gambit, and it's not my opening, I mean, obviously, but I wanted to say that I played this opening over more than 20 years and I have a lot of experience. Well, I would not claim that I'm a Benko Gambit expert, but I think I have quite decent skills in this opening and decent results. And this is the opening which I played the longest, against d4. So my young opponent went for this b6 line, Okay, d6, knight c3. Let's not talk too much about the opening. This is enough is to say that this is all theory, more or less. There is also some old line which goes a4, a5, but that's or even there I have some very interesting games. But okay, knight d2, bishop g7, e4, knight bd7, and this is a very nice rock solid pawn structure. As you can see, black is very proud that usually, and this is usually the case in Benko Gambit. Black has a rock solid pawn structure, and very often black plays without a6 pawn, but then this pawn structure is one big pawn island, and it is super solid. Yes. Okay, so knight c4, a logical move. This is the whole point of knight f3, d2, and the knight c4 with tempo. Queen c7, bishop d3, and now of course white is ready to castle, to push maybe a4, a5, and you know, basically in this line, what is white's idea, what is white's agenda? And that's also very important to know when you're playing opening, or not only opening in general, because every variation has some small details, you know, some intricacies which are important. So in this variation, you know, you could see that white didn't go for pawn grabbing. He didn't want to take the pawn. Yes. So he just played b6, returned the pawn, and now he has a little bit more space. So the basic plan for white here is just to consolidate and to just, you know, enjoy his space advantage and just to dominate positionally. Of course, for that you need to be extremely experienced and to know what you're doing. So it's not so easy, especially not against experienced Volga player or Benko Gambit player. So knight b6, this is logical move. You can see here that black has less space, so black would really like to exchange some pieces, and then you know, it would be much easier for black to maneuver. So for example, with exchange of just one pair of knights, for example with castle, takes, castle, now it would be much easier for black to maneuver, maybe going knight d7, knight d5, maybe knight d7, knight b6, maybe bishop d7, bishop b5. It depends how white plays this. So knight b6 is a logical move, and now white played this knight e3, which is, yeah, sometimes they played, there was old line where they used bishop f4 and then knight e3, but here he just played this knight e3 immediately. And also just to mention that this bishop on d3 is not always placed in the best way, yes, because yes, it could come under some pressure with this c4, yeah. So that's why bishop on d3 it could be problematic for white, yeah. So I think if you ask me, I think that bishop p2 should be preferred for white. But let's see, my young opponent, maybe he was preparing something, maybe not. Let's see what happened. So I just played castle, which is normal move, and now I was, you know, just getting ready that he's going to castle, and then we will play this position. I have a lot of experience in these similar positions, and as I said, it would be easier for white to play if his bishop is on e2. But can you believe that in this position, you know, this game ended in next 12 moves and white didn't castle. Can you believe that? That's quite interesting, right? Okay, so my opponent plays a4 and now he's going for a5. Obviously, immediately, I mean, this is very easy to understand, and that's why I chose this game for intro. Obviously, white wants to push a5. If he pushes a5, goes knight c4, I will be squeezed. I will be pushed back. would be squeezed, and my pieces would start running out of space, running out of air for my pieces. So I have to do something. So first of all, I couldn't exchange this knight. Going back is out of question, so I have only two options here: playing a5 or pushing c4. Playing a5 is interesting, but then you know, b5 square could be vulnerable, and in some other variations of Volga-Benko Gambit you can do that, but here I thought, okay, c4 is good with you know, c4, very strong pawn, and now I even get a tempo. So now my opponent should really go bishop e2, and then his idea would be to make some pressure on c4 pawn. If not, if my pawn is undisturbed on c4, then I would be easily, you know, I would start to jump easily and to use some squares, maybe d3, b3, and of course white should be careful now. So he plays bishop c2, which looked a little bit strange for me. Maybe his idea is just to guard e4 pawn here. Okay, probably. And now, because of this a5, terrible, this is just obvious threat. Obvious threat, I go a5. And now my idea is, as I already mentioned, this knight from f6 should use d7 square, try to jump to e5 or c5, and then try to use these outposts on d3 and b3, if possible. Also, bishop a6 is possible because this knight could be annoying me with knight b5 jumps. Yes. So the position is very interesting, and my opponent still doesn't castle. He jumps. Okay, my queen is under attack. Now, okay, I can try to go queen b8. But then maybe my pawn on c4 would feel a little bit loose, so I just played queen c5 bravely. Okay, just to mention, playing queen d4 would feel a little bit problematic, probably, because knight is not protected here, and probably I would be able to just take this guy, and maybe I'm not winning a pawn because he has knight c6, but this is already you know what white should avoid. He shouldn't allow this. You know, of course this is just pawn up for me, and if he goes knight c6, okay, I have some ideas here. Maybe just knight e3, but knight e7 is check. Okay, so maybe this move check. King h8. Of course, this is not forced, and I can also use some other moves for black, but as you can see, black is very fine here. I mean, hitting everything. I mean, black plays with all of his pieces. Bishop b7 is ready, so probably white would be forced to take on c8. But then you see, black plays with all of his pieces. c3 is maybe coming. Knight c2, knight d3. Black is just fine, at least. Yeah. So playing some move like queen d4 looks totally wrong. Yes, and not to mention that I can try. Yes, yeah, I would. Not to mention that I can even play simply this, and now this would be just also very nice for black. So my opponent tries bishop d2. Now obviously he wants to go bishop c3, and if he manages this, then he would just dominate here. And I mean, I don't have too much time. If I just allow him bishop c3 and maybe bishop d4, or sometimes queen d4, but bishop c3, he would be just better. Yeah? So I have to do something. Bishop a6, obviously. And here already my evaluation was that I should be, I should have initiative. To be honest with you, if I was sure that I am already better during the game, probably not. Okay, this game was played 2 years ago, and okay, here in my comments, evaluation is that black is slightly better, but I think this was confirmed later with, of course, after the analysis, because I always analyze my games, and you should too, of course. Everybody should do this. You should analyze each and every of your games. And if you ask me how long and how deep, until you discover the truth, where was the mistake, where was the critical position, what was deciding factor, and so on and so on. So you can analyze a game for years, but okay, nowadays at least few hours. Yeah. Okay, so let's see, bishop a6, bishop c3, and now my opponent just doesn't want to budge. If I take on b5, maybe he is going to play bishop d4, and then, yeah, take on b5, and yeah. Maybe he was even happy with the draw, I don't know. For example, in something like this, check, and then if he goes bishop c3, I go back, and yeah, maybe he was happy with this, I don't know, but I didn't want to risk, because as I said, my opponent was rated much lower than me, and I needed to play for my team to try to win. So I knew that, this is one of those positions where you need to calculate. And, because here, obviously, you have several possibilities, but not too many. And as I said, this is good for intro. I can take bishop b5. I can take knight a4. Those are two moves, because nothing else is there. I mean, white is threatening bishop d4. So this is critical position, but one of those which is not very difficult, because you have two moves. You have bishop b5, you have knight a4. With bishop b5, black is fine, but maybe I'm just risking a repetition. And also, if I go queen c7, this position is... I really don't like this position. I gave up my bishop pair and I didn't achieve almost anything. Rook c1 might come, and this guy on c4 could feel a little bit, shaky. Yeah, maybe he's even threatening bishop b6, knight c4 at some point. So yes, I didn't like to go for this bishop b5, so I went for knight a4. Just to mention to you, because this is all about Grandmaster's thinking blueprint, yes. Just to mention that I just didn't arrive in this position by chance. And as some top Grandmasters say, and I think that Kramnik was mentioning that in his comments, I saw this from afar. What it means from afar? From some moves ago. So I was calculating this when he played bishop d2, because I knew what he wants to do. He wants to play bishop c3 and bishop d4. And now I just checked my previous calculation, and you should do that. That's very important. So if you calculated the line and then you're just executing the games at the board, don't do it without thinking. So for example, you have a sequence of 4 moves. You calculated everything is clear to you. How you should do it by the book, or how Grandmasters do it, or at least very good Grandmasters. So you play a move, then your opponent plays. Now you already have your calculation. Don't execute, don't play the next move immediately. Check your calculation after each move. Calculate again. You might tell me, yes, but I calculated that already. Yes, okay. Calculate again, then play the move. And then again, until the end of the line. Of course, if you're in time trouble, you're not going to do that. You will save your time. You can play faster, you can check everything. But in a perfect situation, when your time management is okay and you have enough time, you should always check. After every move, check your calculation. That's important. Okay, so here, knight a4, that was my plan. He takes, and I take on b5. You can see that after 18 moves, black should be very satisfied with how the things go. Yeah? Okay, 5, take. And now, now we come to the critical position of the whole game, I might say. So this bishop a5 was moved 20 for white, and as you can see, after 20 moves, black has everything in the position what you can expect from when you're playing with black pieces. So I have castle, I have all my pieces developed, only rook on f8 needs to come to the game. And this is, I should be very satisfied, very happy. But now I also realized, and this is very important critical position, of course. Now I also realized if my opponent plays bishop c3 next move, it would be very difficult for me to play for win. Because then he would be very solid, and in spite of this b2 pawn being isolated and relatively, potentially weak, it would not be so easy for me to play for win. c4 pawn is also relatively isolated, yeah, because it can be supported by other pawns. So here I was, I started to think, because I really knew that this is, this could be the turning point of the whole game. If you just, pass such positions, you're playing some move, let's say soft move or lazy move or just some move, yes, just to play something, then maybe you will ruin your chances. So here I was thinking about maybe move like bishop h6. That looks interesting, to disturb this knight, and this knight on e3 is holding his maybe whole position. Bishop h6 looks very interesting, but somehow I was thinking maybe there could be something more. Of course, rook a8 doesn't work. He just goes bishop c3 back. Sacrificing pawn c3 just to, for example, prevent this castle. It looks tempting at first glance, but it doesn't give anything. And then I noticed it. After some thinking, I noticed the move. I noticed the idea. And of course, yes, I didn't get overexcited. First, when I noticed the idea, I thought, okay, maybe it could be interesting. Then I started to calculate, yes, and I calculated, well, to be honest, I calculated almost everything. And it was, it was correct, my correct evaluation, everything is correct, and lines which I calculated were correct. But, when I was checking this with engine after in analysis, engine also pointed out one sideline which I maybe didn't see, yes, which is also good for me, but I simply didn't see that. So, yes, it was not perfect, but I'm very satisfied with this. It's quite correct what I did. So I noticed this amazing move, and then after, I don't know how much time I spent, maybe 15-20 minutes calculating and evaluating, if this is going to work, because I calculated enough, and I was sure, and only when I was sure that it's good, then I went for it. Knight e4. How about that? I mean, I'm not sure that you could play such move without some fantasy, some imagination, and some experience. You don't come up with such moves just out of the blue. You need some experience and some chess understanding. This is, you might say, this is like from Blitz game, but it's not. There are some deep positional ideas behind this. First of all, king in the center. Yes. Second of all, this guy on a5 is really, a little bit astray from the rest of the forces. Obviously, after knight e4, at least first few moves are easy to calculate. White has to take, and then I take on b2. Evaluation here should be that black is much better. During the game, my evaluation was not like that. My evaluation was that here, and it was enough for me. So I'm just honest with you, and it will be, of course, throughout the course. My evaluation was here that I have full compensation and more. So my evaluation was that I have full compensation for the piece and dangerous initiative, and probably I should be better. Yes, I was not going into details if this is slightly better or much better for me, or is it already winning. That was less important. The most important thing is when you sacrifice a piece is that you know it's worth it, that you know that you have compensation. Maybe some people play some hope chess or some, tricky chess. Let's sacrifice for fun, or I don't know, I will trick him, or let's bluff. I don't do that. Okay, so bishop b2. What is the problem for white? A problem is that now I'm threatening c3, and this guy here could stay just, just trapped. Rook e8 is also a big threat. And this guy's, c3 is coming next move. So my opponent played bishop d2, which looks logical and normal, yes. He had some moves like, let's say, I don't know, queen c2, then I go queen a3, and then c3, and bishop on a5 is just toasted. Not to mention that this guy is hanging. So here I have 2 pawns up, rook on f1 is hanging, and bishop on a5 is lost. Yeah, I mean, it can't be defended, that's the problem. For example, bishop b6, let's take, and queen a6. Even if I don't have this queen a6, it would be not possible to defend this bishop. Yeah. Okay, so another line could be maybe knight c2, and then after c3, yes, the problem is what to do. For example, bishop b4, queen c4, bishop e7. This is a very nice line which I saw. If f3, f5, I win the piece. If bishop f3, bishop a4, threatening bishop c2, queen b4. And after bishop e2, queen b4 is possible, but also queen e4, and simply winning a piece. But also queen b4 is good, and just okay, this no, this is wrong. Yeah, no, this is not good. But queen e4, yes, queen e4 is good, and black is just winning a piece. There is no bishop d3, and queen d3, bishop c2. Yeah. So I saw several lines like this, for example, and critical, of course, the most natural or castle move, yes. c3 is hit by c3, and already here black is winning. Rook is hanging, and for example, if he goes rook e1, rook a8, and that's the, when I saw this is the basic idea. When I saw basic idea, this line, black is winning. He has to give the bishop on c3, and then he is even losing additional exchange. When I saw this, then I worked out everything, and he was just busted. After bishop b2, everything was quickly over. This is move 21st move. So his 22nd move, bishop d2, trying to hold everything. c3, black is already now totally winning. Bishop c1, queen b4. Why black can play just rook a8, going for rook a1, just totally winning. Queen b4, very nice, threatening c2 and queen e4. This was played, and rook a8, and white resigned. So my young opponent had to resign, and okay, this is just full triumph of the black pieces in this game. Okay, this intro was quite long, so I need to finish here. But as I said, I'll try to do my best to present to you how I think during the game, and how grandmasters think, what is thinking process, and what is the algorithm before the move. and all those practical little things which can help you to improve your play.